Well, it was certainly a different result last night. Welcome into the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Got you for the next 2 hours. Chris Schubert here with you on this Tuesday edition of the program. And the Phoenix Suns continue to be our top story. They were our top story yesterday. They continue to be our top story today. It is where we will start today's show because, like we mentioned, felt a little different last night.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
We wondered what this was going to look like. After the decision was made by the Phoenix Suns to bench Bradley Beal and Jusuf Nurkic, take them out of the starting lineup, we wondered aloud, would this be enough? Would this change things? Would this make this team play any differently? We yesterday mentioned how desperate of a move this was, to take a $50 million a year player and put him on the sideline. To say you are going to come off the bench. That's exactly what Bradley Beal did last night. And he did so to the tune of a team-leading 25 points as the Phoenix Suns walked into Philadelphia, defeated a 76ers team that was without Joel Embiid, 109-99, snapping their four-game losing streak, and at least just for a brief moment, allowing us to take a step back. For a brief moment, we can stop wondering aloud if this team has hit rock bottom. They put pause on all that talk for just a brief moment. I don't know if we'll make it through 2 hours without reigniting that, but we start here today with what they did last night. And you certainly started to feel in the early stages of that game that it was going to be same old, no matter who was in the starting lineup. Wide open shots for the Philadelphia 76ers felt very much like Kelly Oubre Jr. was going to have a revenge game against the Phoenix Suns. He ended up with 26 and 11. But the Suns poured it on in the second half. They came out of the second half looking like a well-put-together basketball team. There are still problems, mind you, but they snapped their losing streak. They pick up the victory, and in their first game with Bradley Beal in this bench role, they picked up a victory. Now, here's where I stand on this. They play another game tonight. We're going to get into that here over the course of the show. Last night was a lose-lose scenario for the Phoenix Suns. We spent much of yesterday setting the table for you. A desperate team making a very desperate move. Taking a $50 million a year player and putting him on the bench. Taking their starting center and moving him to the backup role and starting Mason Plumlee. You don't do that if you don't feel like you are out of options. The Suns felt like they were running out of time and they were running out of things that they could do that could have meaning and could impact the results on the floor. This was one of the last things they had left. A trade notwithstanding, we went chapter and verse yesterday about how difficult that would be and how it takes two to tango. You need a dance partner. This was something that the Suns had in their control and was one of the last things that they had at their disposal. It was a lose-lose situation last night. Because if it worked, like it did, and you win 109-99, you have people like me that come in here and talk into a microphone and say, well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're playing a Philadelphia team that almost has as many issues as you do. A team that is also struggling when they should be in the thick of their respective conferences mix, the way the Philadelphia 76ers are. You're supposed to win that basketball game, no matter what configuration you line up. You were healthy. All three members of the Big Three were there. Tyus Jones back in the lineup. You were relatively healthy. You're supposed to win that basketball game. But if you lose the basketball game after making these changes, and you go into a Philadelphia 76ers building that didn't have Joel Embiid, and after making these changes, you still look flat. You still look terrible on defense. You still struggle offensively. And you lose to a team that was, 14 and 18 going into last night's contest? Then there would be no reprieve here today on the show. There would just be more talk of how this is over. There would be more talk of we are nearing the end. We are past the point of no return. And so it was a lose-lose situation for the Suns, but they avoided the worst-case scenario because the worst-case scenario would have been a loss last night. I know, 1 of 82, but a loss last night after you hit the emergency button, after you pulled the fire alarm, after you made the most drastic change that you had left in your bag of tricks, it would have been game over. The Suns could have packed up their season if they would have lost last night. Because if that move wouldn't have inspired them to play well, if that move wouldn't have inspired Bradley Beal to play a lot better, if that decision didn't spark this team, then nothing would have sparked this team. So again, they're supposed to win that game last night, but it would have been a whole lot worse if they didn't win that game last night and we were talking about a loss. And so they have an immediate bounce back tonight against Charlotte, which we will get into here throughout the course of the show. The Suns will be our top story. They will be our biggest story, I would guess, throughout the rest of the week as we enter a time. The regular season in basketball is normally, just like it is in baseball, you check in periodically throughout the season. You don't go through the ebbs and flows like you do in football, right? Where it feels like every week is a season in and of itself, and every loss feels so much more impactful. Basketball, baseball, hockey, they have those slower paces to them. Things can materialize. You can allow things to develop. It feels like this next month, we have played 2 games so far this month, if you're the Phoenix Suns in January. It feels like we are breaking them down, and we are discussing them, and we are going through them like a fine-tooth comb, like it is a football season. Because you know what? January basically is the equivalent of a football season for the Phoenix Suns. This is it. This is your chance to gain ground, to get yourself back into things, or peter out. And open the door for everything that comes with that. So when they make a drastic move like they did last night, when you decide to bench a $50 million a year player, your season now gets treated like an NFL season would. Your team, every single thing you do is going to be examined underneath a microscope. That's where we're at with this team. There is no let a couple weeks pass. We are going to go on a roller coaster ride with each one of these games. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, they are right back at it tonight. But they snap their losing streak. They take care of business against a team that they are supposed to beat. They are supposed to beat the Philadelphia 76ers when they don't have Joel Embiid. 76ers are a mess. They might be even more of a mess than the Suns are. It's close. It's really close between these two teams. And I thought we were trending towards having a conversation about the Suns. And they hit the first shot of the game to take a 3-0 lead, and then the 76ers went on a run to start that game, and I thought it was going to be all she wrote. The move didn't work. It didn't bring the energy level up. They were missing shots. The 76ers were being left wide open in the first quarter in particular, just to have open look after open look. It just felt like it was easy for Philadelphia in the first quarter of this game. But you have to give credit where credit is due. The Phoenix Suns buckled down. Basketball is a game of runs. They responded with some runs of their own, and they got this game back into their control and ultimately had this game mainly on cruise control in the fourth quarter. That is a credit to them. That is a good rebound effort. That is a good response to all of the noise and drama since Sunday night when we learned that Bradley Beal and Yusuf Nurkic were being moved to the bench. That is a whirlwind to go through. A member of the Big Three, 2 members of your starting 5 have been moved to the bench. How many teams right now in the NBA that are of playoff caliber, championship caliber, would be doing stuff like that? Desperate times called for desperate measures. So what would have been bad last night is if we didn't get that response. One person we certainly got that response from was Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal responded. He led the way last night. 25 points off the bench, played 30 minutes. He responded. And you would expect a player of Bradley Beal's stature and caliber to respond to being benched like that. No player, no matter who they are, no matter what level they're playing at, if you think you belong in the starting lineup and you get benched, you are going to have a chip on your shoulder. You are going to feel some kind of way about your coach doing that to you. You are going to feel some kind of way the next time you step on the court. You are going to have that prove-it mentality. And I'm glad we saw that prove-it mentality from Bradley Beal last night. Again, led the way for the Phoenix Suns with 25 points. And so for one night, it worked. For one night, the Phoenix Suns, their desperate move paid off. Will it have long-term success? That is the question that we now get to unpack here today on this show and get to see over the course of the next couple of weeks. But Bradley Beal responded last night. The Phoenix Suns responded last night. This team showed, at least last night, that they are not willing to roll over yet. They showed some fight last night. Is it enough? Is it too little too late? Those questions only get answered with each ensuing effort. And so tonight is a chance to see, did you just have one more punch left in you in the championship rounds of the fight? Or did you turn the corner? Is this just the 6th round of this boxing match between the Suns and the NBA season? Which path are we going down? Was this just the last gasp before the knockout comes? Or did this team find something in the middle rounds and we are in for a championship classic? We are in for going the distance. Which one is it? The only way for us to find that out is to see how they play tonight. It's easy to have that effort one time. It's easy to respond emotionally one time. It's easy to have all this whirlwind of information that we've seen over the last 24, 48 hours and to have a response on one occasion, especially when that is the opponent that you're playing last night. It's difficult to turn it into a stretch. It's difficult to prove that lasting change has been made. So last night, it worked, at least results-wise. At least results-wise, last night it worked. But coming up on the other side, we have a very important question to answer. Did it change anything? And there are some comments after the game that might lead us to think this is just the beginning of this saga. That's next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Back here on the lunch break, 15 minutes from now, I will tell you the one thing the Cardinals need to prioritize here at the start of the offseason that hasn't happened in a very long time. That coming up in about 15 minutes from now. But back into the Phoenix Suns, who got off the schneid last night, a 109-99 victory over the Philadelphia 76ers with their new look operation. Bradley Beal, Yusuf Nurkic moved to the bench. Ryan Dunn, Mason Plumlee inserted into the starting lineup. Thought it was a good performance last night from Ryan Dunn. Thrusted in as a rookie into that role. You're asking him to do a lot. There's a lot of noise that comes with that. It's not just that you're starting. It's that you're replacing a $50 million a year player. And I keep harping on that because this is a superstar caliber player. both in terms of what he's supposed to bring to the table, in terms of how he is paid by the Phoenix Suns. Superstar caliber player being sent to the bench. You as a rookie are being thrusted into the starting lineup. So not only are you going to be asked questions about how you feel about being in the starting lineup, but also you're replacing Bradley Beal. It's like if you sit down a starting quarterback in the NFL who's been with the team for a decade because the performance is starting to waver, the rookie who comes in, you're going to get asked all the questions, and you got to deal with that. So that's a tough spot to be in if you're Ryan Dunn as a rookie, and I think he handled it very well last night in not just how he played on the floor, but the way that he conducted himself in the postgame with the media. Here is where we stand with this team. Here is the question that you have to ask yourself about what you saw last night. Do you think what you saw last night from the Phoenix Suns was sustainable? And what I mean by that is not, do you think they can continue to win that way with Bradley Beal on the bench? Although that's part of it. But the real thing that I'm trying to get to the bottom of is, can you run the rest of the season? Can you have playoff aspirations? Can you have championship aspirations as an organization when you have a player of Bradley Beal's stature coming off the bench? Is that sustainable? Will that be able to last? Will the egos involved be able to see this through? Do you expect Bradley Beal for the remainder of the season to be a bench player for this team? Or do you expect this to be something to spark the team to play better, and then we will see Bradley Beal reinserted back into the starting lineup? Again, what we saw last night is not sustainable. Bradley Beal is either going to be on this team and is going back to being a starter, or he is no longer going to be on this team. What we saw last night was just a ploy to get the energy level up. It was just a ploy to try to fix things. I don't think, truthfully, the rest of the season can play out with Bradley Beal on the bench. I just don't see it. I just don't see it playing out well for all parties involved. Because let's hear from Bradley Beal on the decision to be benched. Producer Corey did an excellent job of cutting these clips up here for me. We've got two for you. We're going to hear Bradley Beal on the decision to be benched, and then we'll play a cut of Bradley Beal on the trade rumors. Now, this first one, we had to censor Bradley Beal a little bit. I guess he didn't understand that he was going to be on the radio today with this cut.
I double-checked it. We're all safe.
I mean, I'm just saying, he didn't realize that this was going to make some news here today. So we had to censor Bradley Beal a little bit, but you'll get the gist of what he's saying here. This is Bradley Beal on the decision to be benched in favor of Ryan Dunn.
It's like, what you thinking about?
Clean. It's kind of twofold, man. Like, cause yeah, I'm starting the league. Like, I firmly believe that. Like, I don't believe, no disrespect to anybody, but I'm a starter.
You're supposed to.
And that's what I firmly believe. But coach made his decision. I'm not gonna sit here and argue with him. I'm not gonna sit here and be a distraction. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, he made his decision. He's a coach. You know what I'm saying? So I just gotta go out and play my game, do what I do, and whatever happens from there, happens from there. But those are coach questions.
So two things. There's a lot in there to like, right? I'm not going to be a distraction. I'm not going to be the word that he used there that we can't use here on the radio. A jerk is maybe the nice, clean way that we can say it. That's good. You want to hear that. Okay, you don't like it. I don't expect you to like it. You've been playing basketball for a really long time. You've been playing it at an elite level, so much so that you got a $50 million a year salary. You should feel like you belong in the starting lineup. But I like that you are not going to be a distraction. Yet that, if we were viewing this answer, if it was the sandwich, that was the meat and cheese in the middle of the sandwich, I'm more concerned about the two pieces of bread for the sandwich. I'm more concerned at the front end saying, I'm a starter. I'm more concerned on the back end saying, those are coach questions. The bread to that sandwich of an answer is what concerns me more than the meat and cheese in the middle. Because if Bradley Beal believes he's a starter, and again, he should believe that he's a starter, then you can't convince me that this is going to end well with him in this role, that this is a long-term answer to this problem. And the problem being the Phoenix Suns stink right now. And I don't know if he meant it this way, But he threw it all on the coach. Those are coach questions. Okay. I read that answer as him trying to be diplomatic, him trying to say the right things, but you can see little glimpses of a player who does not like the situation he finds himself in. You see little glimpses of a player who is not going to be in this role for very long. Again, he's either going to be back in the starting lineup or he is not going to be on this team. Ask yourself, do you expect the rest of the season to play out with Bradley Beal coming off the bench? Now, we played 30 minutes, but do you expect that to be the way things play out? Do you expect Bradley Beal to accept this role? Did that answer give you an indication that he's going to accept this role? There are some players who will accept that role, be a great sixth man, come off the bench, be energetic, fire up their teammates, and do all the things that you want a role player, bench player, six-man player to be. I don't get the feeling from that answer that that is what Bradley Beal is interested in doing, because I will follow up the clip we just played with another cut of Bradley Beal. Credit to Dwayne Rankin. Does a great job covering the Suns. He put these out on Twitter. That's where we grabbed these from. So you just heard about the decision to be put on the bench. Now Bradley Beal is asked about the Jimmy Butler trade rumors.
I was going to say, I'm sure you're aware of kind of like all the other stuff, moving parts around the league, Jimmy and all that.
Yeah.
There's some speculation around the league that this is related to that. Have you thought about kind of like moving on, starting like related to the bigger picture?
If so, I need to be addressed because I hold the cards. So until I'm addressed and somebody says something different, then I'm going to be a son.
I hold all the cards. Until it is addressed, I hold all the cards. Let's try to unpack that a little bit. Doesn't seem like, from Bradley Beal's perspective, he's been approached about anything near waiving his no-trade clause. And he also said the most important thing, I hold all the cards, meaning Bradley Beal dictates this entire situation. So if he's upset about his role, if he's upset about being benched, he also can make this extremely painful for the Phoenix Suns. This is truly a high-stakes game of chicken between two parties right now. I don't think we're fully to Jimmy Butler in Miami territory where those two sides can't see eye to eye. But if this continues, if Bradley Beal is going to continue to be a bench player, if Bradley Beal is going to continue to be upset about being a bench player, and yet Bradley Beal controls where he goes, this is going to be an extremely high-stakes game of chicken where the Suns and Bradley Beal are going to be pitted against each other. And this team can't afford that. This team needs to figure out a way to get things back on track, to get things back going in the right direction so that this big three can see this through. You just heard it right there, how difficult this is going to be. He holds all the cards. And so until that time comes, until he is addressed, he says, I'm a Phoenix Sun. But I don't get the warm and fuzzies from those two clips. Do you? Do you feel better about the Phoenix Suns today after they won last night with this new operation and hearing those two cuts from Bradley Beal? Do you feel better today? Did you wake up today thinking about the long-term big picture for the Phoenix Suns this season and felt better about where they're at? Or did you feel the same that you felt yesterday? You just don't feel any worse. It's like when you're getting over a cold. I don't feel better. I'm just glad I don't feel worse. That's where we're at with the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns are a bad cold right now. The Phoenix Suns are a bad cold that it's not getting worse, but I don't know if it's getting better. I know you won a game last night. I know you finally stopped the losing streak. But I just heard a player talk about how he feels like he's a starter, that he promises that he doesn't want to be a distraction, that he's not going to do that, that coach made a decision. While it's difficult, he's going to respect it. But he passed the buck to his head coach. He said that he's a starter, and then he also talked about holding all the cards. He did not sound like a player who is super happy with the current situation. That doesn't mean he's wrong for feeling that way. He should feel that way. But let's go back to the question I asked at the beginning of the segment. Is this sustainable? Is what we saw last night the way the Suns are going to operate the rest of the season? I have way too much information pointing me in the direction of no. I have way too much information pointing me towards this can't continue. There are two outcomes here. Bradley Beal is reinserted back into the starting lineup as this team figures things out, although they're running out of time to do so. Or Bradley Beal isn't here anymore. That's it. This, what we saw last night, they might run it out again tonight against Charlotte. They might run it out a couple of games here in January to try to steady the tide, to try to just slow things down, to try to stay above water. They might do that. That's not what it's going to look like come postseason time if they get there. It's unsustainable. Because Bradley Beal is going to be asked about this every single day. And I don't think he's going to feel better and better about it the more we go through this. He's going to want to be back in the starting lineup. And again, last night, he was the leading scorer on the team in almost as, throwing up the middle finger to say, see, I deserve to be in the starting lineup. This is not sustainable. This is a house of cards right now. And so while I'm here today to tell you that it's good that the Suns won last night, it's good that this worked because the alternative would be bad, I still don't think we've turned this around. There are still big problems for this team. And those two clips that we played from Bradley Beal should be a warning sign that we are not through this yet. We'll talk about the Charlotte game coming up a little bit later on here in the program and how we might see this exact same lineup out there tonight. Coming up on the other side, it hasn't happened much recently, but it's something that the Cardinals have a chance to prioritize. That's next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. We will have more on the Phoenix Suns in hour number 2. This Bradley Beal thing's not going away, everybody. You got Brian Windhorst going on ESPN today saying the Suns are benching Bradley Beal in an effort to drive him out and to get him to want to waive his no-trade clause. This story's not done yet. We are just scratching the surface of what the next couple of weeks might look like for the Phoenix Suns. I said yesterday, desperate times call for desperate measures, and we are seeing the Phoenix Suns pull out some desperate measures to try to salvage their season. So we will dive back into that here at the top of hour number 2. So the top of the hour, 12 o'clock, we will dive back into the Phoenix Suns, Bradley Beal, and their matchup tonight against Charlotte. I want to talk about the Cardinals here real quick, and I briefly mentioned this yesterday, but I kind of want to put it out there, set it on the table, unpack it a little bit, because when you are building a modern franchise in the NFL, when you are building a team in the salary cap that we have, with the salaries being what they are, $50+ million for a quarterback, wide receiver money being crazy, offensive linemen, pass rushers getting crazy dollars. The money in football continues to go up and up and up, and the percentage of the cap that you are allocating to these very important players continues to go up. The best thing you can do as a franchise is draft and develop your own players. Draft a player, keep them in your own building for a long time, win with them when they're on their rookie deals, extend them ahead of time, set yourself up a couple years down the road financially. Don't have half-baked measures where you throw a bunch of money out there to free agents to try to save your job or to save a season or whatever the case may be. You want to have stability. You want to have stability in the financials. You want to have stability year to year so that you have certain players locked in that you know, I don't have to go out and acquire this position in free agency, or I don't have to target this position in the draft unless that person is just the best player available and that's the way I draft. Well, the Arizona Cardinals, I almost said Phoenix Suns because the Suns are just on the brain today. The Arizona Cardinals have a really good opportunity in front of them. A lot of the season, from a big picture perspective, was spent on James Conner and Budda Baker's contract status. And we talked a lot about getting those deals done. We talked a lot about locking those guys up because, one, they are extremely impactful to the way that you play football. They're big culture guys for your team. But secondly, the quicker you can get those deals done, the easier it is for you to handle things in the offseason when those things come. It's easier to hit free agency when you already know James Conner's back, I don't need to search for a running back. Budda Baker's back, I don't need to search for a safety. When you check those boxes ahead of time, it makes your job a lot easier. And for a team that, let's face it, has a lot of things they have to address, their team needs list is pretty lengthy. Despite a team that went 8-9, despite a team that was in first place after 10 games, there's work to be done here. There's stuff that needs to be addressed. So when you can hit free agency without any stuff hovering over your team, like bringing back a James Conner, like bringing back a Budda Baker, when you can have that stuff handled, it makes your job a lot easier. Well, there's a new thing, there's a new box that needs to be checked. Because officially yesterday, members of the 2022 NFL draft class are eligible to sign extensions. So before yesterday, this wasn't possible. You couldn't discuss it. You couldn't put pen to paper. It wasn't a possibility. Yesterday changed everything. Who was a member of the 2022 NFL draft class for the Arizona Cardinals? Who was their top selection with their 2022 draft class? Oh, that's right, tight end Trey McBride. And so now the Arizona Cardinals can officially discuss a contract extension with Trey McBride. The last player, and I did this research this morning, but if anyone wants to correct me, feel free. But I'm pretty confident in this. Looking at the draft classes, and obviously the 23, 24, upcoming 25 classes, those extensions aren't available yet. The last extension that was given out to a player, second deal given out by the Cardinals, I'm pretty sure it was Kyler Murray's deal. 2019 first-round pick. Signed that second deal. Now, we can debate if that was a good decision or not, but pretty sure that's the last player that got a second contract. Now, Trey McBride was not a first-round pick. He was the Cardinals' first selection, but he was not a first-round pick. That year, they traded their first for Hollywood Brown. Trey McBride was their first selection in that draft class. He does not have the fifth-year option attached to him. So after playing the 22 season, after playing the 23 season, after playing the 24 season, Trey McBride is entering the last year of his rookie deal. And so the opportunity is there for the Arizona Cardinals to sign Trey McBride to a long-term contract extension. I feel extremely confident in the sentences that I'm about to utter. Might just be one that I morphed together, but I feel extremely confident in what I'm about to say. There was no chance that we get to week 1 of the NFL season and Trey McBride hasn't signed a long-term contract extension with the Arizona Cardinals. We are not going to get to week 1 of the regular season and Trey McBride is going to be playing on the last year of his deal. This thing is going to get done. I'd argue it gets done in a hurry. I'd argue that around the time that free agency starts, this deal gets done. Worst case scenario, before training camp, this is getting done. Trey McBride is not going to get to the preseason or get to week 1 of the NFL season without a contract extension. He deserves it. The team's going to give it to him. He's too important of a player. This is just the easiest thing for both sides. This is the easiest contract extension that is ever going to get put together. And it's also important for all the reasons why the James Conner deal was important. All the reasons why the Budda Baker contract was important. Now, those players at different stages of their career, the back 9, those deals can be structured a little differently. Trey McBride's in his prime. Trey McBride, I've told you this, I think is one of the 3 best young tight ends in the game. I think he's going to command top dollar. Good thing for the Arizona Cardinals that they have a ton of cap space. And good thing for the Arizona Cardinals that they love themselves some Trey McBride. Who doesn't love themselves some Trey McBride? Trey McBride needs to be the next guy up. He needs to be the next Cardinals draft pick that gets a long-term contract extension. And what you can do, if you have some really smart people in your front office, and we all think that they do, we all think that the Cardinals front office is incredibly savvy, Monty Ossenfort putting together a good staff, you can structure this deal in a really nice way. You can redo his cap number for the last year of his deal here in 2025, and you can put together a nice long contract extension. You can put the void years on the back end. You can prorate out a nice signing bonus. You can do all the nifty cap tricks that you want to lessen the cap hit for 2024 or 2025, to free up some money for yourself if you want, and sign Trey McBride to a long-term deal. That's what having flexible cap space does for you. That's what Monty Ossenfort is planning for. And this is why you plan for things down the road. This is why you walk into the offseason with $77 million in cap room. So you can do this deal and it doesn't hurt you in the slightest. It doesn't impact you one bit. You can still do all of the other things. It's not a this or that. It is not a situation of, oh, I can't get, we'll use baseball as an example. I either have to get the starter or the bat. The Arizona Cardinals, with their cap situation, can do both. They can sign Trey McBride to a long-term contract extension, and it's not going to mean a thing for them for 2020, 25, 26, 27. Right now, he counts for $2 million against the cap for next season. That's nothing. And so you can put together a really nice contract extension and get this taken care of and have one of your better offensive players locked up for a really long time. What does it look like? Well, here's what the numbers look like across the tight end, so you can figure out what your appetite is here for this deal. Travis Kelce leads the way with a $17.1 million AAV. TJ Hawkinson at 16.5. George Kittle at 15. We told you those are kind of the big 3, right? Those are the 3 guys that are the old school. They're the last generation. The new generation, Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta, Trey McBride. Mark Andrews in the $14 million deal. Evan Ingram, 13.75. This is going to come in around those numbers. I don't know if Trey McBride is a market resetter. I don't know if he's going to command $17 or $18 million a season. I don't think that is necessarily where this goes. But you have a tight end that means so much to your offense, a player that means so much to your offense. And you can showcase to the world that you can draft and develop players. Now, it's not all Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon, right? They weren't here when Trey McBride was drafted, but they, with their scheme the last 2 years, how good has Trey McBride been? They've unlocked something with Trey McBride. So get this deal done. Give yourself one less thing to worry about when the draft rolls around, or OTAs roll around, or training camp rolls around. Sign Trey McBride to a long-term contract extension. Because no matter what your future looks like at quarterback, Trey McBride's a player that you want to have. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a player that you want to have. You don't want to get to week 1 of the regular season and have Trey McBride be a lame duck. You don't want Trey McBride to be playing on the last year of his deal. You don't want that. You want to get a deal done immediately. And you can reset the market. You can set the new number, right? You can get out in front of this and not have to react to other contracts that get given out by other teams to their tight ends, right? You can be first on this. And we've seen Monty Ossenfort do this with James Conner. We've seen him do it with Budda Baker. There is no reason to think that he won't also do it with Trey McBride. And for what is the first time since Kyler Murray, a Cardinal draft pick is going to get a second contract. That's a big deal. That is a credit to Trey McBride. It's a credit to the coaches for developing him. That's how you build a winning team in the NFL. Draft, develop, extend. Draft, develop, extend. That is the model. That is how you don't win in the NFL by spending oodles and oodles of cash in free agency. Free agency is supplemental. Draft, develop, extend. That is the way to win in the NFL in 2025. On the other side, we wrap up hour number 1 of the program, 480-864-1060 if you want to join us. The portal closed. Well, sort of. And it's good news for the Arizona State Sun Devils. I'll explain next during the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. This is how it starts, producer Corey. This is how the day unravels very quickly. I was having a great Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
We've had a great first hour of the program.
What happened?
We're hoping to have a great hour number 2 of the program, but my day is completely unraveled. So during the break, I was checking social media. This is completely unrelated to sports. I just have to vent here for a second.
No worries.
I am part of a Facebook group
Oh, that's your first mistake.
for the town that I live in.
Okay.
It just keeps everybody up to date on stuff that's going on.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can kind of know,
Traffic
oh,
updates or
hey,
anything that
there's-
happens or events.
There's traffic over here. We're closing this road. It just makes my life a lot easier.
Okay.
Well, there are some unconfirmed reports in this Facebook group that the internet provider that I have is out.
Oh.
Now, here's the problem. I have an app for this internet provider. The app tells me everything's okay.
Oh, of course they would.
But I don't know now.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here 30 miles from home,
Yes.
and I don't know when I go home if there's going to be internet or not.
Just stay here longer.
If I knew that I was having issues, if I knew for certain that we were having issues, I could maybe start working on a solution here. I could call somebody, but the last thing I need to do is call up and they're like, sir, no, your internet's actually fine.
Oh, they will, and they'll say that too.
So this is how the day unravels, because now the entire rest of the show, I am now going to be worried about whether or not my internet is okay at home. But everything's green on the app.
All right.
Everything says online.
You'll get an email about 30 minutes from now saying there's been an outage for the last 2 hours.
I haven't gotten that email yet. Normally I get a text message too. I didn't get that either. So this is why you don't trust things you see on Facebook. But I saw it on Facebook and I said, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what I have to deal with today. But then there's a bunch of people in the comments saying unconfirmed. This is not true. And the app also says it's untrue. But I don't know now. Now it's up for interpretation.
It would just be one or two people just breaking their own internet and then blaming the company.
Could be some user error. And so it's not a widespread thing that now I am worried about when my internet's fine. But I have the ability to check my network, not going well on the app right now. So maybe they were onto something. So now that's what I get to worry about here for the remainder of the show. What Sun Devil fans no longer have to worry about, although I don't know how much of a concern this was, but let's face it, in this new era of college football that we find ourselves in, nothing is guaranteed. You're not guaranteed anything. You're not guaranteed a single player on your roster staying with your program for more than one season. Transfer portal, NIL has completely changed the game. There's no loyalty anymore. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not taking shots at anybody. There just isn't any loyalty anymore. You're going to go where you have an opportunity to maximize your potential the most. I get it. It's very understandable. If teams are going to throw millions and millions of dollars at these kids, I can't blame them when you're 17, 18, 19, 20 years old for chasing the money. I cannot blame them one bit. So in this new era of college football, college sports in general that we find ourselves in, there's no guarantees. ASU just went to the college football playoff quarterfinals. We're one play away from being in the semifinals, which will take place this weekend. They were this close. They were this close, one play away from still playing. We would be talking and previewing them playing a college football playoff semifinal game. Instead, we're talking about, did anybody enter the portal? Is anybody leaving? There are no guarantees even after that players wouldn't leave. So yesterday, when you saw a tweet from Jordan Tyson that said he was coming back, that said he was committed to staying with ASU, I don't want to say it was a sigh of relief, but it was kind of a sigh of relief because you just don't know. You don't know if after the season that Jordan Tyson had, that if another program would offer him so much money, double, triple what ASU in this new NIL era, what the NIL collective is able to give to Jordan Tyson, you don't know if Jordan Tyson's going to take one of those deals. You'd hope that after the year that they had, that Jordan Tyson would want to stay. But we live in a different era now. And so you don't know if somebody was going to throw a ton of money at Sam Levitt for the next 2 seasons because ASU is building this up. They were not supposed to do this year. They were building up their infrastructure. They were building up their model. They were building up their collective. They were building up all of the framework that is required to run a modern college program, specifically on the football side. That takes work. That takes time. And then in the middle of all of that, in the middle of all of that work that you're doing, oh, by the way, you're going to go on a miracle run to the college football playoff. The context changed. The game's changed a little bit. You now aren't just the little engine that could. You now have to play on that level. You have to keep these guys. You have to retain these guys. You have to now be able to go out and recruit the best talent because guess what? You can win the Big 12 again next season with Sam Levitt under center. and Jordan Tyson out there as a wide receiver. You can be back in the college football playoff next season. You should be a favorite to be in the top 25 next year with a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback in Sam Levitt. All those things are true. And now you have to find enough NIL dollars to keep the guys that you have, but also recruit some more talent. Go out in the transfer portal and get some more wide receiver help because we know this team needs it. To go out and fill some of the gaps on your roster, along with the recruiting that you're doing for guys that are entering college. It's a lot of work to do. And so there are no guarantees. There's nothing for certain anymore in college football. And so to see yesterday that Jordan Tyson said, I'm not going anywhere, and the deadline passed, portal's closed, at least for now. Sort of, the rules are weird. Portal opens, and then it closes again. But it's still kind of open for the teams that are still playing. And then if you have a bowl game, it's very weird. But the portal's closed for the sake of this conversation. And Jordan Tyson didn't enter the portal. Sam Levitt didn't enter the portal. At least not that we know of. I know there's some processing time, but we appear safe there. And so you just never know how long a player is going to be with your program. But now that Sam Levitt not going anywhere. Again, wasn't expected to, but once you get that confirmation, you feel a little better. Jordan Tyson not going anywhere. Again, you didn't think that he was going anywhere, but to get the 100% confirmation, you feel a little better about things. The Sun Devils are now poised to capitalize on 2024 success. They now can go into the transfer portal and not only offer what NIL money that they've been able to bring in from this magical run, but they can also say, hey, you get a chance to play with Sam Levitt. You get a chance to play alongside Jordan Tyson. That is going to inspire some players to maybe leave a little bit less on the table because let's face it, ASU, while they're building this up, they can't offer what Ohio State is offering, what Michigan is offering, what Alabama is offering, what these Texas is offering, what these big-time programs are offering. But if the deals are close between ASU and whatever other school it is, then a player might take a little less to be a part of what ASU is building. They might say, you know what? I would like to be a part of what you're doing here, Kenny Dillingham. Coach, sign me up. So that is what the ASU program has in front of them, a chance to capitalize. We spent a lot of time, radio airwaves, column inches, TV time, using the phrase sleeping giant. It's been used on this program as well. If you want to truly accept that moniker, if you want to finally fulfill that moniker, this is the year to do it. This offseason and going into the 2025 college football season, this is it. If they follow up this year with another excellent season, with another college football playoff run, with another Big 12 championship run, if they follow it up by Sam Levitt being in the Heisman conversation, if Jordan Tyson follows it up with another exceptional season, and we're talking about a team that's ranked all throughout the year to follow up their college football playoff campaign from a year ago, now you're talking. Because this feels more sustainable than when Todd Graham was here and they flirted with success. And when I mean success, I mean big stage, bright light success. Because they flirted with it under Todd Graham. This would be more than flirtation. This would be, we're going steady. We're dating now. That's what ASU would be in the college football landscape. Not serious yet. Not talking about engagement or weddings. But it would move from flirtation to steadily dating if you can then stack together 2 seasons like that. Because you'd have a coach that you could believe in. You would then have 2 years of proven success on the football field. Your recruiting would obviously be paying dividends, both traditional recruiting and transfer portal NIL recruiting. You would then start to be building something sustainable. So that's the opportunity that's in front of the Sun Devils. More so than what winning that game against Texas last week would have meant. More than that, they have a chance now to capitalize on what they did. Because continuing to win in the college football playoff would have been great. Winning a college football championship would have been awesome. Would have been great. I don't know if it would have been the thing that pole vaults this program into national relevancy on a consistent basis. A good 2025, that is what pole vaults you into national relevancy. You got the street cred after what you did against Texas. You got it. You got the respect of everybody in college football. Now you got to keep it. You've earned it. Now you got to keep it. And the way you keep it is by making 2025 impactful. So that's good news. Good to see that Jordan Tyson's not going anywhere. Again, like I said at the top, there was never even a hint. There wasn't a rumor. There wasn't a story. There was nothing that was signaling that this could be a possibility. But in today's college football, nothing is guaranteed. There's nothing except seeing a tweet from Jordan Tyson saying that he's running it back. That's it. That's all you got. Because other than that, it's all up in the air. A team can swoop in at the last minute and offer a bunch of money, a boatload of cash, and it completely changes the dynamic. You've got, 4,500 players across college sports in the transfer portal right now? It's crazy. It's crazy trying to keep track of all of this stuff. It's insane. And so I'll take some stability. I'll take some good news in Jordan Tyson not going anywhere. But the work doesn't stop now. ASU needs to attack I think there's 700 players still out there looking for new homes in college football. They need to attack this portal. They need to go out and fill the needs that they have. They need to find players that they can build with, that can build off of what they did in 2024. Then they can truly become that sleeping giant that would no longer be asleep. A great hour number 1 in the books. We will dive back into the Suns at the top of hour number 2. Yeah, okay, it worked for one night. Are we sure that Bradley Beal to the bench is the long-term fix this team needs? That's next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Hour number 2 of the lunch break. We welcome you back in. Appreciate you joining us here. However you may be consuming the show, either AM 1060, maybe you're on 100.7 HD2, maybe you're listening through the fantastic KDUS 1060 app, or you're watching us on the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube channel. All of those ways for you to consume the show, and mainly everything here on the KDUS AM 1060 station. The app in particular is your best friend. You can download it, take us with you on the go. So we highly recommend you get on board with us there. We also podcast the show. Just search the lunch break wherever you get your podcast. All right, cheap plugs all in there. Got through everything I needed to get to. Let's dive back into the Phoenix Suns, because what's that soap opera called, Producer Corey, As the World Turns?
I think I say Young and the Restless.
No, but that's a good one. That is a soap opera. It just didn't really. Days of Our Lives is another one. I don't think that
There's
really
so many, and
fits
they've been
what we're
going
doing
on
here.
for decades.
Well, it feels like a soap opera is playing out here in front of us, because let's back up a second. If we're going to do this, let's do it right. Let's do it in chronological order. Sunday night, we learn the Phoenix Suns are benching Bradley Beal. They're also benching Yusuf Nurkic. I'm going to take Nurk and put him to the side right now. Yusuf Nurkic, you're off to the side right now. You're good, buddy. This is not about you. We're just focusing on Bradley Beal here. Sunday, we learned Bradley Beal is getting benched for Monday's contest, last night's affair with the 76ers that the Suns won. Bradley Beal plays in said game last night, 30 minutes off the bench, leads the team in scoring with 25 points. We are left wondering, short-term fix, long-term fix, is this going to work? What's this going to look like? That's how we feel both before, during, and after the game. Then after the game, Bradley Beal gets asked about the decision to be benched. Now, again, we're going in chronological order here. Bradley Beal, we learn from Chris Haynes on Sunday night, is getting benched. On Monday, we discuss what it means. We discuss if there's an ulterior motive other than just trying to fix this season. We'll get back to that in a second. Put a pin in that real quick. And then the game is played. Bradley Beal comes off the bench, 30 minutes, 25 points, leads the way. Suns win. We get to the post game. Bradley Beal, how'd you feel about being benched?
It's like, what you thinking about?
I mean, it's kind of twofold, man. Like, cause yeah, I'm starting the league. Like, I firmly believe that. Like, I don't believe, no disrespect to anybody, but I'm a starter.
You're supposed to.
And that's what I firmly believe. But coach made his decision. I'm not gonna sit here and argue with him. I'm not gonna sit here and be a distraction. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, he made his decision. He's a coach. You know what I'm saying? So I just gotta go out and play my game, do what I do, and whatever happens from there, happens from there. But those are coach questions.
A bit of a mixed message there from Bradley Beal. Kind of said all the right things, doesn't want to be a distraction, doesn't want to be a jerk. That's me cleaning up what we bleeped out there. But then there's the two pieces of bread to that sandwich of, I'm a starter in this league, no disrespect to anybody, I'm a starter in this league, and then also, that's a coach question. So kind of a mixed message there, but clearly a Bradley Beal that was trying to say the right things, but deep down you know he does not like anything that's going on here. Okay, Bradley Beal, what do you have to say about the Jimmy Butler trade rumors?
I was going to say, I'm sure you've been aware of kind of like all the other stuff, moving parts around the league with Jimmy and all that.
Yeah.
There's some speculation around the league that this is related to that. Have you thought about kind of like moving on, starting like related to the bigger picture?
So I need to be addressed because I hold the cards. So until I'm addressed and somebody says something differently, then I'm gonna be a Sun.
Until I'm addressed and somebody says something differently, I'm going to be a Phoenix Sun. Okay, we now get to today. And we get to Brian Windhorst on ESPN this morning talking about how the Phoenix Suns are absolutely trying to trade Jimmy Butler. And the way they are they're trying to trade Bradley Beal, excuse me. And the way they are trying to go about it is that this benching is directly correlated with an attempt to get Bradley Beal to want out. And you can hear it in those two cuts. This is a guy that's not happy right now with the way things are going. You heard it in the reporter's question, and credit to Dwayne Rankin for those two cuts from the post-game availability with Bradley Beal. You heard the reporter who asked the question say, a lot of people think this move, you to the bench, is directly correlated to the Jimmy Butler trade rumors that are directly involving the Phoenix Suns. It's no secret. Ask anybody that covers the NBA right now. The Phoenix Suns are the most eager team in pursuit of Jimmy Butler right now. Most eager. Now, the Miami Heat are saying, thanks, but no thanks. We don't want Bradley Beal. We're not doing that. So it's complicating things a little bit. So if it's complicating things, if you need to get a third team involved, it's really difficult to do. It's really difficult to get another team involved. You also need to have that third team be a team that A, wants Bradley Beal, and B, Bradley Beal wants to go to. Or you can choose this path, the path of making Bradley Beal upset, ticking Bradley Beal off, making him angry, making him frustrated, make him get to a place where, you know what? I'll go anywhere but here. It's a bold bet. It's a very bold bet. And it's a bet that feels very transparent because you heard Bradley Beal's answer. I hold all the cards. Bradley Beal knows what's going on here. Bradley Beal's very aware of what the Phoenix Suns are trying to do. Bradley Beal, his agent, his team, they're reading all the reports that you and I are reading. They're watching all the stuff on ESPN and on podcasts and in video content. They're seeing all the same stuff that you and I are seeing, that the Suns want to get out of the Bradley Beal business. They apparently are really eager to get into the Jimmy Butler business, and that they will do whatever it takes to get out of the Bradley Beal business, including if it's true that they are doing this on purpose, that if they have benched Bradley Beal, not to save their team, not in an act of desperation to make the team more cohesive, but in an effort to force Bradley Beal to want out. That's a very risky bet for the Phoenix Suns to be making right now. Because if it doesn't work, if Bradley Beal, like he said, holds all the cards and chooses to say, hey, you know what? I'm good. I like this bench role. You know what? Getting paid $50 million to only play 30 minutes a night, this is kind of nice. I get to live in Phoenix. I'm good. You are then playing the most high-stakes game of chicken that you can play. Tonight's basketball game almost feels like a distraction to what the main event is right now. This main event right now is the Jimmy Butler-Bradley Beal standoff. The main event right now is what do the Phoenix Suns truly want? Do the Phoenix Suns, their front office, James Jones, Matt Ishbia, are they truly doing all of this to get out of the Bradley Beal business, and they are doing this to tick off Bradley Beal? Is that what they are doing? Or is this a move to try to salvage their season? If it is a move to try to salvage their season, to try to make it work with the big three, to do something to try to energize this group, and maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe the intention was the latter. Maybe the intention was to just spark the team, but also somebody raised their hand in a meeting and said, you know what? Might also make Bradley Beal a little annoyed, and he might want out. And that might make our pursuits of Jimmy Butler a little bit easier. But it is a super high-stakes game that this team is choosing to play if that is what they are doing. And it's certainly, listen, Brian Windhorst doesn't make stuff up. And if Brian Windhorst is going to go on ESPN this morning and say that the Suns are actively trying to trade Bradley Beal, and the benching is directly correlated with those pursuits, with those efforts, then what else am I supposed to assume than the Phoenix Suns are doing this on purpose? That the Phoenix Suns right now want to be out of the Bradley Beal business. They are truthfully admitting that this isn't working. They are waving the white flag. They are done. But it is a really tough thing to do, because if Bradley Beal is onto them, if Bradley Beal is onto this, which again, he's a smart guy, he can read a room, he probably knows what's going on here, he can make this extremely difficult. That no trade clause is an albatross to this situation. So the Phoenix Suns are going to play another basketball game tonight. They're going to go up against Charlotte, one of the worst teams in the NBA. And there's a decent chance they might just roll out the same group that we saw last night. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You won a game this way. Bradley Beal looked good coming off the bench, 25 points. You might try to do the exact same thing. I told you in hour number one, this ends in one of two ways. Either this gets fixed and Bradley Beal is back in the starting lineup, or Bradley Beal isn't here anymore. There is a third option. And the third option is Bradley Beal makes this extremely painful. Like getting a root canal painful. I've never had one. I know a lot of people who have. They said it's not enjoyable. It's not a pleasant experience. Bradley Beal choosing to not waive his no-trade clause if a Jimmy Butler deal is potentially out there would be making it painful for the Phoenix Suns. And so I would argue, truthfully, we are in full-blown refresh Twitter mode. It is F5 season. For those who don't know, the F5 key on your keyboard will refresh the page. We are in F5 season. It is time to constantly be checking social media because this is a situation that could change in an instant. It can change overnight. So the Phoenix Suns are going to play another basketball game tonight. They should win. They're playing Charlotte, one of the worst teams in the NBA. They have 7 wins on the season. I don't care what configuration the Suns roll out tonight. The big three is healthy. This should be a win. I should not have to come in here tomorrow and lead with a Phoenix Suns loss. Should not happen. Long term, this isn't going to work. This has to come to a resolution in some way, shape, or form. Because it feels like we are playing the most high-stakes game of chicken with an entire franchise's short and long-term future hanging in the balance. This doesn't just impact 2025. If this season is a crash and burn, if this team doesn't make the playoffs, if this doesn't sort itself out, Kevin Durant might not want to sign an extension here. He might be gone. That might then open the door for a Devin Booker trade. A lot of stuff hinges on the success of this season for the Phoenix Suns. It's why we said January is so important. It's why after one game, the Suns are going to these great lengths in January with their roster. It's why they might potentially be purposefully annoying Bradley Beal to try to get him to want out of Phoenix. High stakes game of chicken. Let's see if the bet that the Phoenix Suns might be making, we don't know if it's for sure, but the bet that they might be making could potentially pay off. 480-864-1060 is the phone number. You can also hop into the YouTube stream, KDUS AM 1060 on YouTube. Your thoughts there as well. Take a quick time out. On the other side, there's still one big thing that the Diamondbacks have to accomplish this offseason. Lucky for them, the market for that thing still pretty good. It's next on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. It was a great first show yesterday for Jim Rome in his new time slot. Heard right here on KDUS AM 1060. You can hear Jim Rome every single day following us here on the lunch break, 1 to 4 p.m. every single day, Monday through Friday. And you got the Rooster from 5 to 6, Monday through Friday as well. So we've got you covered there. Super excited to have Jim Rome here on the station. It was a great debut yesterday in the new time slot. And so we're excited to have him here on the station. The Diamondbacks have had a pretty impactful offseason. First, the trade for Josh Naylor solved their first base issues after Christian Walker headed off to Houston. And then it was the Corbin Burnes signing that had everybody talking. That was where everybody were reminded about the Arizona Diamondbacks. And we have heaped oodles and oodles of praise on Mike Hazen, on Ken Kendrick, on the Arizona Diamondbacks for the job that they did landing Corbin Burnes and what it means for this team and how Corbin Burnes is the Diamondbacks getting an ace player while he is still an ace caliber player, not a player that is on the back nine of their respective career. They are getting Corbin Burnes while he still can win a couple Cy Youngs, while he can still be one of the best pitchers, if not the best pitcher in the National League. So those are the two big moves. They got some more pop. They replaced Christian Walker's pop with a 27-year-old Josh Naylor who hit 30 home runs a year ago, and they added to their rotation. They didn't replace Jock Peterson just yet, but they kind of did by saying, hey, we're just going to be really good at keeping you off the board. We're gonna dive into run prevention and not so much run creation. Although we expect to create a lot of runs with Corbin Carroll, with Ketel Marte. We've added Josh Naylor with 30 home runs. Eugenio Suarez can hit 30 home runs. We've got some pop. Lourdes Gurriel, we can score, but we're also going to stop you from scoring. We're going to have a really good rotation. We're going to have the best rotation in the National League, and it's going to be spearheaded by Corbin Burnes. And then, oh, yeah, our number 2 is going to be Zach Gallen. And then, oh, yeah, our number 3 is going to be Merrill Kelly. Yeah, that's what the Diamondbacks have put together. That's great. That's fantastic. But there's one other thing that was on the list. We said first base, we said outfielder, and we said this team had to get a late inning reliever. They had to get a third member to the back end of the bullpen. Justin Martinez and A.J. Puck right now hold down 2 of the 3 spots. The third spot, I think, is wide open for a big signing for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I have just the player. Could be a little pricey. Although he hasn't signed yet, market might be suppressed a little bit. And we saw the Diamondbacks come out of nowhere for Corbin Burnes. If they maybe trade Jordan Montgomery, there might be some excess cash for them to be able to use to just bring this player in. So it's possible. I'm not going to say it's likely. I'll say it's possible. And so we'll explore that possibility here on the show. What if the Arizona Diamondbacks could sign the best free agent closer on the market? What if the Arizona Diamondbacks could sign Tanner Scott, a lefty reliever who has closer makeup, has a closer pedigree for the back end of this bullpen? You might say, Chris, why would this team spend big money on Tanner Scott? Why would they maybe extend the payroll even more than it already is for a closer when they've got a closer? They've got Justin Martinez. You're a big fan of Justin Martinez. I am. I believe Justin Martinez can be one of the best closers in baseball. I think he has the stuff. You got a guy that can throw a sinker 100+ miles an hour. That's going to be difficult. But we both watched Justin Martinez in the second half of the season. We both watched a guy that struggled with his command at times. And if you want to be a ninth inning, shutdown, lockdown closer, if you want to be the guy that is trusted to get the 3 most important outs wherever they fall in the game, got to have some command. And so why wouldn't you maybe have an insurance policy? Why wouldn't you have a safety net for Justin Martinez? Why wouldn't you maybe start Justin Martinez out in the 8th inning role? A.J. Puck in the 7th, Justin Martinez in the 8th, Tanner Scott in the 9th. Been there, done that, lefty closer for your 9th inning. Young, up-and-coming, flamethrower as your 8th inning guy. And one of the steals of last year's trade deadline to acquire A.J. Puck when he had multiple years of control left because he was awesome for the Diamondbacks. He was awesome when Miami moved him back to a relief role after trying him as a starter for a couple of starts at the beginning of last year. He moved to a bullpen role, was awesome. Great trade from the Diamondbacks. And then when he got here, he was also really, really good. Feels a lot better when you have some stability in the back end of the bullpen, right? Feels a lot better when you have a veteran closer. Now, it's not going to come cheaply. It's going to require the Diamondbacks to spend a little bit more than they already have, and they are already going to run one of their highest payrolls ever. But when you're already here, and you've already shown a willingness to go beyond where you are normally willing to go beyond, then anything's on the table. Is it likely? No, I wouldn't say it's likely, but you've already exceeded a limit that I thought you had on your team this year. You are already at a number that with a team that doesn't have a TV deal, you're going to lose money next season. You're already there. And so you have to make moves that can maximize your win potential so that you can increase the dollars that you're going to bring in so that maybe that loss isn't as much. So why wouldn't you explore Tanner Scott? Now, there are second-tier options. Jeff Hoffman's still out there. Kirby Yates is still out there. There are other options. Either way, the Diamondbacks are adding another reliever. Either way, somebody else is being added to this bullpen. But I was thinking about this morning, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great to have a ready-made closer as a part of this group so that maybe if Justin Martinez isn't ready yet for the spotlight, isn't ready yet for that role, if the command is still a work in progress, this team can't afford to have a bullpen that gives away games. They can't afford to have a down season. They're pushing the chips in the middle. Zach Allen, Merrill Kelly, free agents at the end of the year. You just spent $210 million on Corbin Burns. You just traded for Josh Naylor. You are acting, spending, trading like a team that is trying to compete for a division. Is trying to get into the dance. Is trying to get back to the World Series like you were 2 years ago. You can't have a closer that's unreliable. We saw what that looked like last season. And Paul Sewald couldn't do it anymore. When there were concerns about whether or not he could get this team 3 outs in a big spot, change the entire complexion of the season. You got to have stability. You got to have trust. You got to have reliability. You got to have that. I believe Justin Martinez is the future closer of this team. But for a team that is making the moves that this team is making, that is spending the way this team is spending like a team we have never seen spend at these levels before. Ken Kendrick is going beyond any place he has ever spent before, ever. Why would you leave something up to chance? We know you need to add a reliever. Why wouldn't you make it the best closer on the market? Why wouldn't you make it a player that gives you a lockdown ninth inning guy to now you've just done what the Cleveland Guardians do. And we know, I've said this before, that Mike Hazen came from Boston, but he emulates a lot of other smart small market teams. The Rays, the Guardians. He emulates a lot of those teams. You know what the Guardians do really well? They shorten the game. Okay, we're going to ask our starter to go 6 innings, and then we're going to have a shutdown bullpen, 7, 8, 9, good luck. We're going to shorten the game for you. Well, if you combine the ability to shorten the game with multiple starters in your rotation that you feel can give you length on a regular basis, Corbin Burns can give you length. He can go 7 innings. Zach Gallen, you hope he can give you length, go 6 or 7. Merrill Kelly can give you length. Brendan Pfaadt can give you length. If you can get 3 of your starters on a semi-regular basis to take the ball into the 7th inning to where every single night you're not asking all 3 of those relievers to pitch, you're going to keep your arms fresh. You're going to have your high-leverage arms for high-leverage spots more often than not. You're not going to have days where multiple guys are unavailable, and you're going to be able to stockpile a lot of wins. They have to get a reliever one way or another. Why not make it the best one available? You have already shown a willingness to spend more than you've ever spent before. What is now spending for just this season $15, $17 million more on Tanner Scott? You have a lot of payroll falling off the books next season that sets you up to kind of deal with this a little bit. You got Zach Allen's money falling off the books. You have Jordan Montgomery's money falling off the books. Merrill Kelly's money is going to fall off, even though it's not a ton. And then if you supplant that with young players that are cost-controlled, you can afford to have a Tanner Scott. You can afford to have a Corbin Burns. This team needs to add a reliever. Why not make it the best reliever on the market. Why not go big when you've already shown a willingness to go big? 480-864-1060 is the phone number. Coming up on the other side, it's early, but where is the consensus for the Cardinals when it comes to the NFL draft? That's next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Could hockey be returning to Arizona? We will get to that in the leftovers in about 10 minutes or so from now. I have to admit, I look for any excuse possible to talk about the NFL draft. It is a passion of mine. I used to work in the space covering the NFL draft, used to go to all the events, used to be at the Senior Bowl, used to cover the draft on draft night, used to be something, I still love it, but it used to be something I was directly involved in 365 days of the year. So because of that, I very much enjoy when we get to a realistic time to start talking about the NFL draft. Now that the season is over, the Cardinals are done, we know where they're going to be picking. This is our opportunity to kind of take a first look. There's a lot of time between now and the draft. Senior Bowl is going to happen at the end of this month. Then you've got the Combine. All sorts of stuff happen between now and then, and the rumors will start to cycle. And the Cardinals are in a really interesting spot. When you pick outside of the top 10, you can't really prepare. And what I mean by that is you can have your board and you can know who you like and who you don't like. It's really tough when you pick where the Cardinals pick, 16th in the 2025 NFL draft. It's really difficult to war game out all the different scenarios. It's really difficult to figure out who is really going to be available for you when you are on the clock. And so you have to look at it in the abstract. You have to look at it big picture. And the big picture says that the Cardinals might be in a really nice spot. Let's do a quick thought exercise. The needs for the Arizona Cardinals this offseason are what? Well, we think they need another wide receiver, although we're hoping that to be solved by T. Higgins signing here. But they need another wide receiver. They need some offensive line help. And I don't think it needs to be specific interior offensive line help or tackle. I think they would look across the entire offensive line, maybe other than left tackle and center, for upgrades. We know they need defensive ends. They also need help along the interior, stopping the run, helping get those ends free. We think they need some linebackers. Maybe could use a corner. There's a lot of things that the Cardinals need to address. Not all of it is going to be addressed via free agency. Not all of it is going to be addressed via the draft. It has to be a combo. It has to be you solve this with free agency, you solve that with the draft, and you pair together a really good offseason. Well, good general managers, good organizations, look at the draft and say, all right, well, what's more prevalent? Is this a defense draft? Is this an offensive draft? Then you look at the free agents. Do the free agent positions and players match with my needs, or is this a really heavy running back free agent class and I don't need a running back, I've got James Conner? Or is this a really tight end heavy free agent class and I've got Trey McBride? Do your needs match up with what is available in free agency? Do all of them match up with what you need in free agency? What does the draft tell you? And that's how you put together an offensive or a off-season outlook. That's how you put together a game plan. Well, this draft, specifically in the first round, feels very well set up for the Cardinals to fix their defensive issues. A lot of edge players in the first round, a lot of defensive alignment in the first round, a couple of corners in the first round. There are a lot of players at positions of need for the Cardinals. And we know the Cardinals are going to have to take multiple swings at pass rush. They got Darius Robinson, but I think they need at least two more pass rushers. They need an elite standout guy, home run game wrecker, and they need a nice complementary piece. And if you have those two plus Darius Robinson, you've got a really nice core that you are building out. Here is the $64,000 question. Are the Cardinals better off signing an edge in free agency, trading for an edge with their draft pick, or drafting an edge at some point in the 2025 NFL draft? You want an established guy. You don't want to have to bring a rookie along and develop them. Hassan Reddick's going to be available this offseason as a free agent. Could bring him home. I know he didn't have a great year in New York with the Jets. I know he's going to be 31 years old, but you could bring him around. Matt Judon is a veteran, 33 years old. He's going to be available this offseason. Khalil Mack, as a veteran, is going to be available. He's 34 years old. You can go the veteran route. You can go out and sign a Chase Young. You can go out and sign Marcus Davenport. You can go out and sign a Josh Sweat, Josh Uche. You can sign those guys. Just reading some of the names that are available at edge. Maybe the Browns finally entertain trading Myles Garrett. Maybe the Raiders trade Max Crosby. Who knows what the offseason could hold? Remember, we spent a lot of time here on this show breaking it all down for you. What options were available at the trade deadline? The big fish, the medium fish, the small fish, all across the board. You could go that path. You could draft a rookie. But the Cardinals are going to be under, whether it's an official or unofficial. There's a mandate. Another 8-9 season is not going to be tolerated. Team's going to have to make the playoffs. We know edge is a huge problem for this team. Pass rush is a huge issue. Are they better off trading their first-round pick for an established veteran pass rusher, or are they better off using that pick on a rookie pass rusher and hoping that that person, that player, can make an impact the way Micah Parsons did or the way Myles Garrett did? Or what is a better solution for the Arizona Cardinals? I don't know. We don't know who's really out there. We don't know who might shake loose. We don't know who might be disgruntled in contract talks and then ultimately want out. You don't know. This is early. This is why we do this ahead of time. We lay it all out. We explore all the options. We look at the pros and cons to it all. But the Cardinals are going to have a unique opportunity. They have a ton of cap space. They have all their draft picks if they want to move them. And it's a defensive-heavy draft for them at positions of need. That's a great place to be. Flexibility is the name of the game. It's one of my core beliefs about modern NFL organizational structure. The best thing you can do if you don't have the uber-talented player at a position, at a pillar, and I believe there are 5 pillars to an NFL team. You got to have a quarterback, you got to have a left tackle, you have to have a wide receiver, you have to have a shutdown corner, and you have to have an edge rusher. Those are the 5 pillars to a good, stable NFL organization. If you have those 5 pillars, more than likely you are a good team. Look at all the teams in the playoffs. They have mostly all 5 of those pillars filled out, or at least 4 of them. You're set in that regard. So if you are trying to acquire one of the 5 pillars, and maybe we'll do this exercise later on in the week with the Cardinals of where they stand with the 5 pillars. If you don't have one of the 5 pillars, the best place you can be is a team that is flexible. A team that can sit on the sidelines and wait for a player to be disgruntled or wait for a situation to develop to where you are best suited out of anybody to capitalize. Imagine a world where Tyreek Hill wants out of Miami. Well, the Cardinals have the cap space. The Cardinals have the draft capital. And the Cardinals have the need for a wide receiver. That sets them up pretty nicely if they would want to explore a trade for Tyreek Hill. There are other teams who don't have the draft picks, who don't have the cap space, and who don't have the need. Or they have the need, but they don't have the cap space. Or they have the need and they don't have the draft pick. Put yourself in a position to have opportunities come to you. Don't be a team that can't explore opportunities because you don't have the flexibility. Don't run up always against the cap. Don't structure contracts terribly and have a bunch of void years that you pay for. You need to structure contracts correctly. You need to keep some cap space on hand. Create maximum flexibility, because when you have maximum flexibility, you can take an offseason like the Cardinals are about to have, and anything is available to you. You can trade your first-round pick for a player. We've seen the Cardinals do this. They traded their first-round pick for Hollywood Brown. They can do that again if they'd like. Maybe a player that can be more impactful than Hollywood Brown. But you can trade for a superstar player with your first-round pick. Instead of drafting a player with 16, you can move that pick for a player. You can spend a ton of money in free agency. Maximum flexibility is the name of the game. The Cardinals have that. And the Cardinals have an offseason where they need to address a lot on the defensive side of the ball. The defensive side of this draft lends itself to them being able to fill their needs. What Monty Ossenfort and company have to decide, and we'll share our opinions on this as the offseason evolves, what is the right path? What names are out there? What players are available in free agency that would be worth spending big dollars on? Are there any? Or is it best suited to sit back and wait and let the offseason come to the Arizona Diamondbacks, or the Arizona Cardinals, excuse me? Which path is best? That's what they get to decide over the next couple of weeks. And then when March rolls around and the free agency stuff begins, expect the Cardinals to be very definitive in what they decide to do. Coming up on the other side, we will wrap up this edition of the Lunch Break. You want to get in a last call, 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join us. You can also chime in on the YouTube side of things. We got Michael over there who said, no way the Cards spend big money. We'll see. They got a ton of cap space. Certainly a possibility for them to spend some big money this offseason, and I think they might surprise you in a lot of ways. So you can get your comment read over on the YouTube side of things as well. We'll wrap up this edition of The Lunch Break with the leftovers. I mentioned it. Could hockey be returning to the Valley? We will discuss next here on The Lunch Break, KDUS AM 1060. Back to wrap up today's edition of The Lunch Break. We appreciate you joining us. We'll hand things off. Jim Rome at the top of the hour for the next 3 hours, 1 to 4. Yes, that's right, Jim Rome here, KDUS AM 1060. Started yesterday, so your new home for Jim Rome right here on KDUS AM 1060. You want to catch up on anything you missed? A lot of Suns talk here today on the show. They are the biggest story. They will continue to be the biggest story, I think, up until the NBA trade deadline or until Jimmy Butler is traded, because they are in the middle of all of the Jimmy Butler rumors. Bradley Beal benched. According to Brian Windhorst, it appears to be a move to try to get Bradley Beal to waive his no-trade clause. They're trying to, I guess, purposefully anger Bradley Beal to the point where he wants out. Just feels like a bad situation. Feels like a high-stakes game of chicken. We broke it down from all the various angles over the course of the show. You missed any of that, you got 2 ways you can catch up on it. The podcast feed, just search The Lunch Break wherever you get your podcasts, and then also the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube channel. We chop up the show into digestible chunks based on the sport, and I guarantee you that the Suns conversation we had about Bradley Beal will be up there later on today. So head on over there, subscribe to the channel so that you know when all these new videos drop. It is the leftovers, all of the stories that we didn't get to. And producer Corey, we have to work on the dartboard. Was one of our New Year's resolutions for the show in 2025. We were going to put up the leftovers dartboard, which I think we agreed that would be best suited for the show for it to be in the corner behind my main camera. Mm-hmm. It's a long distance, but the idea would be to throw the dart onto the dartboard, and that would be the story that I would then discuss. Put 4 or 5 stories up there on the board. You asked a very important question that I needed to get cleared with HR. Were we going to use the magnetic darts, or was it going to be a real dartboard?
Yeah.
And I listen, I think we should go big or go home.
Okay.
I think we should. I mean, I think I feel comfortable saying this. I don't think I can get hurt throwing a real dart that far away,
Bounce it off a corner, though. Who knows where it goes?
I mean, I've played darts before.
All right.
I watch darts pretty regularly.
Really?
Well, what is that supposed to mean?
It's just not something people often tune into.
No, this is the World Darts Championship was just finished up.
Oh.
17-year-old Luke Litter won the World Championship.
Not even old enough to be at a bar to practice.
No,
What-
and the best part is they have these events like in like massive like pub halls.
Oh.
It's very cool. It's awesome.
Okay.
It's a very cool atmosphere. If you have not seen darts, this is what the leftovers is for, folks.
Yeah.
You come for the lunch break, you stay for the leftovers, okay?
Exactly. So we'll get that board up. We'll also get a foam board behind it so we don't make any dents in the wall.
No, I think we'll be fine.
It won't go through the board and puncture the wall.
Well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this because that material back there,
Yes, it's very thin.
it is thin, but it's not the actual wall.
No.
It's some type of, I don't want to call it foam. I think that's a little unfair, but it is some type of soundproofing that's up there.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, we could put it on the glass window. That feels even worse.
One bad throw, and it's
Right.
obvious to everyone what we've done.
Right. Because we're trying to stay under the radar here.
Yeah.
We're just going to try to have fun. And I very much believe in the ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Really?
So we're just going to put up the dartboard and see what happens.
Okay.
But I do think if we put it on the glass window and we break the glass window, that's going to be a problem.
That's on us, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, that's going to be on us. And then there will be more than just forgiveness we'll be asking.
And then if we get the dartboard up, do you want specific stories or do you want just like different sports? Like, oh, this corner is hockey, this corner is football.
So here's what I think is going to be our best course of action for this. I think it's best if we put up just general sports.
Okay.
And then I, ahead of time, prepare a story for each of the sports that's on the board.
All right.
And then whatever sport it lands on, that's the story we do.
Sounds good.
Because I think it would be very tedious for us to every single day swap out the stories that are on
That's
the board.
true.
It's actually really easy if you say, okay, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, other. And
Horse
we just,
racing.
Right, and we just kind of put it up there. I mean, listen, I'm here to tell you, I don't know how many horse racing stories I'd be able to have prepared for the leftovers, but we could see. I think that's going to be much easier
Okay.
and much more stable for us long term. I think. So sometime in 2025, we will get the leftovers dartboard put up onto the studio here, and I would love it. I think what would be really cool if at some point this show we have people call in during the show and they suggest stories for the leftovers.
I
So
see.
not only am I in the dark about what story we're going to hit on the board,
Yep.
but I'm also in the dark of what story I have to react to. You want to talk about a world-class Emmy award-winning segment? It would be that version of the leftovers. It might be the best radio segment of all time. If
It
we
could
did
happen.
So that's what I'm striving for. By the end of 2025, that's what I want the leftovers to look like.
Okay.
So hopefully we can strive towards that. In the meantime, the leftovers is whatever I want it to be. And so we will talk about a hockey story because it was yesterday. I wanted to get to this yesterday during the show. There was just a lot in Suns land that went on. And again, we put it here in the leftovers today. I wanted to get to it yesterday. I wanted to get to it at some point today. We'll get to it here in the leftovers. Craig Morgan, who's done an incredible job everywhere you can think in this market, in this town, working, covering the Coyotes, covering sports, writing about sports. He's been awesome. Yesterday, he tweeted out some breaking news that the newly elected Maricopa County Board of Supervisors chair, Tom Galvin, I'm not going to get political on you, don't worry, but Tom Galvin announced the formation of a committee of political and business leaders to bring the NHL back to Arizona. So that news broke yesterday. And that NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman confirmed that he met with this supervisor's chair, Tom Galvin, before Christmas via Zoom. So let's unpack this news. You have the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors chair saying that he is announcing the formation of a committee that is going to include political leaders and business leaders to bring the NHL back to Arizona. Why is that important? Well, you need the business side because you need the support of the businesses wherever this stadium is going to end up being. You need business leaders because you need somebody who might be interested in being the owner. And then you also need political leaders because there's a lot of red tape to cut through. I don't think I need to tell anybody out here listening to this show about the logistical hurdles that are involved with politics and getting a stadium built, getting a long-term solution for the Arizona Coyotes. We've been through there. Been through that. Been there, done that. I also think it's telling that Gary Bettman met with this supervisor's chair via Zoom. I don't think Gary Bettman takes that meeting just as a courtesy. I think he takes it because, one, we know Gary Bettman wants hockey here. He wants hockey to work here. And I think it would be one of his better moments if he was able to bring hockey back here and it was able to have long-term success and have a stadium and be successful, right? For him to be able to say, yes, I finally did it, I think would be a huge feather in his cap. But I also think he takes that meeting if there is at least some kind of momentum. I don't mean right now. I don't mean next year. I don't even mean in 3 years. This is still, ultimately, at the end of the day, going to be a 5-year at a minimum project. The NHL is not going to step foot back into this state, back into this market, until there is an actual building up. They are not going to put a team back here, start that process, unless there are shovels in the ground, permits are given out, auctions are won, and there's an end date in mind. They are not going to walk back in here because of some renderings. They're not going to walk back in here because of some potential for a land auction. They are not going to walk back in here because a business owner says they can get it done. That business owner is going to have to get it done. That business owner is going to have to cross the T's and dot the I's. That business owner is going to have to get the land. That business owner is going to have to develop the land. That business owner is going to have to build a building. And if the NHL was told 2031, this piece of land, permits are done, starting the construction, building will be done 2031, I guarantee you the NHL would be back here in the state of Arizona. But until that happens, we are left in hockey purgatory. But I do think this is good news that the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors chair is announcing this committee to work on this. That means there is some will of the people via the elected officials to try to figure this out. That it was a loss that the Coyotes left for Salt Lake. That it needs to be a priority to get a hockey team back here. So this market, which is the 13th biggest market in the country, to be a Big Four market, meaning NHL, NBA, NFL, MLB, that it has all 4 major professional sports leagues. That's very important. So this is good. We'll see what happens. It's a long ways away. I am not talking about this to get anybody's hopes up. But when you see a story like this after a lot of bad, let's talk about some good when it comes to the Arizona Coyotes and hockey returning to Arizona. The Tennessee Titans made a move today. Didn't get a chance to touch on this throughout the show. Yesterday, we told you all of the head coaching firings. We said that the Jets were the only team that also had a GM opening. The Titans said not so fast. The Titans fired their GM. Now, mind you, they've not fired their head coach yet. They have the number 1 overall pick. This is interesting. Also, a bad deck of cards dealt to Tennessee's now outgoing general manager. You now have a situation where you're going to hire a GM who, at least as we sit here today, is going to inherit a head coach. Never what you want to do. You are never going to get the best candidates if you are going to force somebody. If you are going to force a general manager to keep a head coach. The attractive part of that gig, if you're the general manager, I have the number 1 overall pick. I can pick my quarterback. I can succeed or fail based on my hand-picked quarterback. But you also don't have your hand-picked head coach. And so I wonder if that GM at least gets an option to decide on the head coach. But now we have 2 teams that will be looking for a general manager, the New York Jets and the Tennessee Titans. And then in the weirdest story of the NFL right now, the Bears have put in a request to interview Mike McCarthy. The Cowboys, as we sit here today, have yet to respond to that request. They're just ignoring it. 1, why are the Bears wanting to interview Mike McCarthy? That's a bad idea. 2, why are the Cowboys just ignoring the request? Going to get themselves into a lot of trouble. That's it. That's going to do it for us here. This edition of the lunch break in the books. Everybody, make a great rest of your Tuesday. We are back for the Wednesday edition of the lunch break. See ya.